They're dead, Dave.
What, Captain Hollister?
Everybody's dead, Dave.
What, Tom Hunter? What, Selby? Not Chen.
He's dead, Dave. Everybody is dead. Everybody is dead, Dave.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Everybody's Dead Dave, a Red Dwarf review podcast regularly hosted by myself, Adam Martyn, and my co-host as always,
Phil Hawkins.
That's right, and today we are kicking off Series 6 of Red Dwarf, but we're also joined by a special guest, introducing Dominic G. Martyn. Hello, Dom.
Hello, hello. How are you doing?
Not bad. How are you, sir?
Not bad at all. Nice to have a nice breather doing this. This is cool.
Yeah, a lot of our guests have said that, haven't they, Phil? Like, they find it a nice breather to talk
about something a bit different.
Red Dwarf. Yeah. So, if you're new here, well, welcome. But for anyone who's listened before, you'll know that Phil has been a viewer for many years. He's seen Red Dwarf several times, a lot of it on broadcast. This is my first time as a viewer. I've never seen Red Dwarf before. Don't know how, don't ask. It just didn't clock my radar. So it's all about different perspectives. So Dom, where are you on that scale then? What's your relationship or history with Red Dwarf?
I'm even further downward than you, Adam. I've barely watched any Red Dwarf, so this was. However, I do know of its cultural relevance and how it is enriched in UK culture and sci-fi, etc. I know it's a very popular show that has been has its own cult following, etc. And it's still been going almost to this day, really, after the revival on what was it, Dave?
Yeah, there was an episode last year, in fact.
Yeah, last year. So it's a really cool show that I've always wanted to get into, but I've never had the time, and I've always gotten distracted. Like, I can say I can start a rewatch tomorrow, but then I'll end up getting caught on my other rewatch of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So,
and you need to be quick on that, because at the time of recording, it's leaving Netflix, isn't it? In like a day or a few days, or
I believe so. Yes, all Trek.
Right, fine.
Leaving Netflix. By the time this episode goes out, it's probably already gone.
Oh, 5 seasons ago.
I know. I'm the same. I'm on 10G, which I think is the only one that's staying.
Where's it going?
I don't know.
Amazon Prime? I've got Amazon Prime. What do you want from me, capitalism? What do you want from me?
It's like the panic we had when this Red Dwarf left Netflix, and we were like, oh no, where are we going to watch it? And we went 2 different routes. Adam bought the Blu-ray, and I went to BritBox.
That makes sense. Oh, I'm going to have to buy a Deep Space Nine Blu-ray collection, aren't I?
Yeah, oh, bless your heart.
Well, if you can't watch any Star Trek because it's not available anywhere, just sign up to BritBox and watch Red Dwarf instead.
Well, to be fair, I have got a BritBox subscription,
easy.
So
there you go.
I can now have something a second thing to watch on BritBox apart from classic Doctor Who.
Another marathon to an already even long marathon with classic Who. But, I mean, Dom, mate, we're more than happy to have you here. And don't worry, you may have only seen a handful of episodes, but that's how I started. And we mainly just talk about our different opinions on each episode. So this will be fun. And today, folks, as mentioned, we're doing Series 6, start of a brand new season. Series 6, Episode 1, which is titled Psirens, spelt P-S-I for Sirens. And the synopsis reads as follows. 200 years after investigating the SSS Esperanto, the crew awake from suspended animation aboard Starbug with amnesia and find that their mothership Red Dwarf is missing. And that's all I'll say on that for now. The synopsis I'm reading reveals quite a lot, but I feel we'll get there when we get there. But that's a tantalizing glimpse for you anyway.
This is a moment that that I've been kind of teasing that is coming to haven't I, Adam? That there's going to be a series predominantly set, or all set, on Starbug, the little runaround that they've got, because they lose the ship and we've finally reached that point.
Yes, this is apparently, Dom, there's a point where, for whatever reason, well, I don't know yet, for whatever reason, they're not on Red Dwarf itself, the ship. So how was that for you then, watching this? Did you think, like, oh, why aren't they on the ship that the show's named after? Or
See, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I was wondering, oh, okay, so this is like they're spending the entire episode on a runabout in DS9 parlance. But yeah, it was, I guess, it didn't throw me out too much because I haven't seen that much of Red Dwarf anyway, so I just kind of adjusted to the setting. I mean, the Starbug itself still had a pretty decent set, I'd say. It's still pretty large.
It was a bigger set than it had been last series. They've definitely expanded Starbug because there were different levels on it. There were some stairs that went somewhere. There was an extra door at the back of the set that wasn't there before. So this is a bigger Starbug than we've had before. Obviously, because they're going to be set mainly on it, that they've decided to splash a bit of cash around and upgrade the set somewhat. How they explain that in universe? Well, I mean, they don't explain it in universe. They just want us to accept it, as they often do on the show.
Yeah, one thing about this show, Dom, is there's been several continuity things established, and then the next episode it's either not talked about or it's written away in a thrown away gag. And it's Red Dwarf. It's fun. You know, like with Doctor Who, sometimes we can get very pernickety with continuity. This is not like that. This is not the show for that.
This is not the show to take notice of continuity and canon and all that,
it's half and half, isn't it, Phil? Because there are some moments where it absolutely sticks to its continuity and refers to things from like
sometimes they'll reference
back.
Something that...
And then there's other big things. It's just like, nah, forget about that. And so, I mean, we kick things off. We see what appears to be Lister waking up from a cryo sleep. He's got even more hair than normal and very long nails, which I'm sure would make some members of the audience a bit clenchy teeth time, because I know people who really don't like... It's a thing, isn't it? Some there's probably a scientific name, but it's a name, isn't it, for like fear of long nails, I think. Something like that.
I have not heard of that.
I never heard of one.
Oh, I've had a few mates who are like, don't like, even when they're not like that long in the show, but just long, they don't like it. So anyway, tangent. So we see him go around. He doesn't seem to know who he is. We see Crichton pop in, and who's taking out the trash. And I've got to say, the cube he gets, you know, from compacting the trash, gave me instant memories to that scene in Monsters, Inc.
I can't think of the scene you mean. I have seen Monsters, Inc., but...
It's when Sully thinks Boo's been, like, trashed, and he holds the cube, and... I don't know why. Random little pop memory, but... as you say, though, Phil, the Starbug set is looking really lavish, really atmospheric, probably more than it ever has done. So, I mean, Dom, what was your impression of the set, considering this is like an early 90s BBC sci-fi comedy show?
It was roughly on par of what you would see in like a standard starship set in, say, 80s Doctor Who, I'd say. It was low budget, you could tell. Didn't have necessarily the gleam or the glamour, but the show is not... It doesn't seem to need that aesthetic. It generally seems to want to come across as gritty and bit grotty and bit nasty in terms of its set design. And I thought it worked its purpose, to be honest. I really do quite like the set.
Yeah.
It's practical.
Yeah, very practical.
You're talking about it being gritty and messy. You might not know this, but Red Dwarf itself, the biggest ship that they've lost, is a mining ship. So that is absolutely, I think, the aesthetic they're going for. That it's a mining ship, so it's meant to be a bit dirty. Things get dirty because it's doing manual labor of mining and things. So it's that fits in quite well. I was going to say the stasis situation where he comes out of stasis. I don't why does he have long hair and long fingernails this time?
If he's been in stasis, yeah.
But because the original premise of the show, Dom, I don't know if you know this bit, is that in the very first episode, the whole of the crew gets wiped out by a radiation leak, but Dave Lister happens to be in stasis at the time as a kind of punishment. So he survives and gets woken up by the computer after 3 million years. So he's the last human alive, basically, and then the hologram of Rimmer gets turned on, and then they find the cat, and they gradually build up the crew. But that time he came out and he was just looking exactly the same way as he went in. But here he's grown lots of hair and lots of fingernails. Yeah. So is it a different type of stasis? Who knows? Again, I'm nitpicking on stuff that the show doesn't care about because it's doing it for a joke.
I think they mainly went for the gag on that one. But I get what you mean. Like, when you establish it, you'd think, oh, why has he done it? But, I mean, it's only there for gags, isn't it? It doesn't last very long, that whole long hair, long nail aesthetic. It's dispensed with pretty quickly.
What I like about his amnesia is the bit where he's absolutely disgusted by things that are his own behaviour.
Yes.
Because when Crichton is going, like, serves him up food, and he takes a drink bit of the drink and it's expecting orange juice, but it's actually last night's curry or something like that.
Oh, the chilled Vindaloo sauce.
That's disgusting.
Yeah,
It's like, no, that's your favourite.
I did admit, I can usually hack a lot of stuff, but when he said it was chilled Vindaloo sauce, that, I don't know what it was, that sent me a bit. I was like, that is grim. Like that.
Yeah, I was thinking, when I heard that, I was like, what sort of monster are you?
Well, a great impression for the show for you, Dom. Like, well, you're a monster.
There's a lot of, in this scene, there's a lot of sort of talking about stuff that has previously happened on the show. They reference Kachansky and various other things. And I read that this was all put in there to kind of establish the show for people that might be new to it. So this is quite a good episode for you to come in on, Dom, because it was, this whole scene was designed to introduce new people to the show that might not have seen it before. So did that work for you? Did you feel suitably introduced to the basic concept and who the character was and all that sort of stuff from it?
Yeah, I mean, I perfectly got easily that Lister was a bit of a strange chap that just regained his memory. I mean, onion on cornflakes. But yeah, the way it introduced the characters and their dynamics, I thought was very effective. For me as a new viewer, putting aside what I did know of the show beforehand, I would say that it's easily, I guess, an 11th hour, to put it in a certain type of parlance, to introduce people to the show again. So I thought it was quite enjoyable. I mean, I didn't feel like I'd missed out on too much, even though I really, really have. But yeah, I thought it was quite good. Yeah. It was a very clean introduction.
I agree with your sentiment for the most part, Dom, except that, Lister gets that reintroduction, from Stasis. We see Rimmer reformed as a hologram and some of his traits. We sort of get reintroduced to Crichton, that he's the sort of, man about the ship, if you like, who does all the dirty work. Cat just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah.
The scene cuts and it's like, oh, we're all sat at the table now. And I must admit, it did annoy me a bit because it's been a running thing on this show where, we've both said, haven't we, Phil, that a lot of times, at least at this point, the Cat character seems to get, not sidelined, but he just gets, like, the least to do. Like, he just gets the odd one-liner, which is fine in itself, comedic relief, but it seems so often he doesn't really get much. And I just found it sad that, all the other three sort of get that reintroduction, and Cat's just here. We don't know what he's been doing. Do you know what I mean,
I assume
Phil,
he's been in some kind of stasis as well, but we don't get that same reintroduction to his characteristics. Even with Rimmer, we get it like, even though it's via exposition from Crichton, is like, oh, uploading arrogance, uploading charisma, and it's like this tiny little bit at the tip of his finger. And, we get his personality traits via dialogue there. But we just don't get anything for Cat, which is, like you say, a bit of a shame. And I assume Crichton has just been meandering around the ship for 200 years.
Just been doing shit,
dusting and stuff. When Rimmer is being reformed, or when he says he's going to reform Rimmer, I did like the fact that Dave...
He's a hologram.
...goes...
Rimmer? He's my best mate, isn't he?
And Crichton's just like...
Sir, you are sick.
Yeah, it was sweet in a way. Like we've talked, that they have these moments every now and then where it's like they are, because like they're an old married couple, they bicker all the time, they disagree, but almost like deep down there is that little level of like respect or whatever. They just don't show it often, I think. So when he said that, even though
they're kind of like siblings that bicker a lot and get on each other's nerves.
Yeah, I thought that line was sweet.
That's sort of the bond between Odo and Quark in DS9 again.
Yeah.
I like that. Always bringing it back to DS9. See how many similarities
I'm obsessed with it, mate. I'm obsessed with it.
It's a good show to be obsessed with. It's my favourite Star Trek show.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Fair.
Rimmer has a new outfit.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Adam, what do you think? You don't like it? I'm not a fan of it as well.
No.
This is the one I refer to as the quilt.
It is
because
a quilt.
It's basically a duvet quilt thing with the little pocket, padded.
He had so the one he had before this was still like that red trimming, but it was actually like, it was almost like not velvet, but it looked very nice, I thought. And then the one before that, well, the same material but green, that was my favorite. The green outfit, loved that. But yeah, I don't know why they made it quilted. It just looks a bit odd.
It's a bit odd, isn't it?
It's just a bit. Yeah, so no, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And that might sound so petty, but I really don't. But like you said, this is like a sort of reintroductory episode, because we basically then have a debrief around the table of what the hell's happened. We find out that Red Dwarf has been taken by... they don't mention, do they? They just say someone, don't they? Or some being.
Well, yeah, I think they just got back to where they left it, and it wasn't there. So, and they've picked up this vapor trail.
That's it, yeah. The vapor trail.
That they've been following for 200 years, but they are slower than Red Dwarf, I think, at this point. Which I'm not sure that makes sense either, because otherwise, how would they have always gotten back to Red Dwarf? Because they also mentioned that Red Dwarf is always moving, and therefore... Yeah,
we're asking all the
They've
wrong
lost
questions.
it. It's not there. It's not there. Okay. They've lost it. They've managed to lose it down the back of the sofa.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And we get a little bit of the space directive gag. That's back.
Crichton, you're forgetting about Space Tour Directive 1742. 1742? No member of the Corps should ever report for duty in a ginger toupee.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, early on, Dom, what are you thinking about the dynamic between these characters when you're seeing them have this meeting? Like, did you enjoy, I guess, like how they all interacted with each other?
Oh yeah, I could easily tell some of the character dynamics, like obviously Lister and Rimmer, not necessarily the best of friends. Crichton has got that sort of almost inane ability to just be somewhat charming and innocent the same way.
Yeah.
And Cat is just sassy.
Pretty much.
Referring to what you said back earlier about Cat as well. Yeah, I don't get a vibe that I know him. I don't really know him. I don't know much about him. I don't even know why he's there, or what he even is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say they probably failed a bit on that front in reintroducing him. But his interactions still kind of fun.
They are, yeah.
What I do like about the Cat, there's one little bit that I think they used the Cat well in, and that is they sort of introduce him as the navigator because of his sense of smell having evolved from a cat. So he has these enhanced senses, and that's kind of a placement that he has going forward on the ship. Whenever they're on Starbug, he's there at the front, being one of the two main people steering the ship because he's got these enhanced sensors. And I think this is the first time they've really mentioned that. Okay. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah. Okay, neat little But I get what you're saying, Dom. There isn't much. And even just thinking of the past 5 series, we only really know Cat from that very first episode, I think, when he appears, like why he's there. And they make the occasional reference, but no, there's never that much time, I guess, in the same way that Rimmer and Lister and even Crichton have had like their backstories or that developed in the past 5 seasons. We haven't really had the same for Cat so far, have we?
Not really. I mean, he's a bit better used after series 2, because the first 2 series he really just felt like an extra who would pop on for the occasional funny line.
Yeah.
And the last few series, they make use of him more. He's more than just a one-trick pony type, the same joke over and over again, which he was for the first 2 seasons. But he's still a lot less used than the others, I think.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'd agree with
who
that.
knows? I mean, it might change now because from this point on, of course, we have technically one less regular cast member because we've sadly lost Holly with the ship. Holly is the computer.
The ship's computer.
Who originally in the first 2 years, paid by Norman Lovett, then replaced by Hattie Hayridge in the next 3 series. And now lost. That's it.
Now
no more
she's
Hattie
gone.
Hayridge.
That was a big shame, but alas, I'm going to try not and think about it too much.
Yeah, I think she was often underused.
Yes.
But when they did give her stuff to do, she was really good.
She was. But they decide, well, they want Holly back because they want to get Red Dwarf back. So they have to navigate Starbug through an asteroid field, making use of what I describe as a trash cannon or something like that, wasn't it? It was a mix of all the trash to blow up the asteroid.
Yeah, because they previously mentioned that they didn't have any weapons on board. So they've been very ingenious in developing their own by using the trash compactor and the trash chute to just fire stuff as a cannon. I like that.
Exactly.
It was quite devastating, really.
Yeah.
Blown up asteroids. I was just like, wow, that's It's effective.
Exactly.
What are they? What trash do they have?
Well, with some of Lister's items, something very powerful and very toxic. But hey, Star Wars, take note. You got all them trash compactors. You could be using that for better things, as seen in this show. But they manage to navigate through the field, and they stumble across a sort of ship graveyard in the hopes of finding Red Dwarf. And they send out their little scouter to see what's going on, and they come across a black box from a previous ship, and we see this man that he has fallen victim to a siren. What do we think of the sirens then in their true sort of insectoid form?
Oh, they reminded me of the Fomasi.
You mentioned Fomasi? So
yeah. Oh, that hulking form to them, but with obviously more insectoid bits and pieces. But ultimately, that was surreal. I thought that scene in particular was really funny, though. I have to say,
yeah.
And the guy being like, you squirted all the ketchup from my burger instead of the blood. That was really clever, because you just instantly think, is this a horror? Oh, it's gone horror. Oh, wait, no, it hasn't. And then you see his brains coming, and then you're like, oh, it has. Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
It's one of the things the Red Dwarf does really well, is that they set something up and then they undercut it with some humour that works really well. Like they do a really good job of establishing a horror vibe when they're describing the dead person on the floor and what he's done with his entrails and how he spelt out the word and stuff, and then seeing the crew member on the black box be terrified by this creature, and then the straw and the ketchup completely undercuts it, but it works so well that the way that does that.
Yeah, oh, it really did.
It does. And it's nice that still, at this point in time, 1993, we're still seeing aliens, practical costumes. We haven't taken that awkward leap into 90s CGI just yet. Because I know, Phil, you've said at some point they dabble in CGI. That might be in the later seasons, maybe? Yeah,
maybe. I think it might be series 7 and 8. Because after this series, there was a 3-year real world gap before series 7. Okay. So I think that's possibly when they make the leap. It was a long wait, because this is the series that I started watching as it went out live for the first time. So
wow.
1993? Yeah. I think I was about 8. So I was watching it then, and then it ended, and I had a 3-year wait till the next series, and I'd only just started watching it, so that was very frustrating.
No. So
I'll talk about that more in the last episode.
Sure. But was this the first episode you ever watched then? Did you start?
Well, my memory isn't that clear, but I do remember that it was this series. I can't remember if I managed to catch this episode first, or if it was a different episode this series, but it was definitely this series, because I remember then it ending and having the long wait.
Yeah, well, maybe something will spark as we go, but we learn pretty quickly that these sirens are very much, I guess, a sort of a take on the traditional siren you'd hear on pirate ships and stuff, a temptress who was able to manipulate the mind for their own evil ends, and except these are insects that can masquerade as women, and they start to play that effect on the boys from the dwarf, with Cat first very easily swayed. What was that? I loved all that sort of overacting, everything's been destroyed and there's less than 3,000 of us left.
All women.
I know it's played up. Yeah, it's all played up.
Seed spreaders.
They need their seed spreaders.
Yeah, and I mean, if you needed more info on Cat's character, Dom, I mean, there it was. He's just, as that comes up, he's there.
He's absolutely ready to fall for it straight away, isn't he?
Yeah.
Perpetually horny.
Yes,
pretty much. Yeah, that is a good summation. Yeah, but he falls for it pretty quickly. And then, on Lister, we see Kochanski, who I believe, Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, is played by the same actress who played her in Series 1 and 2. So it's been quite a while since we've seen her. And it's only a little cameo role. But this, Dom, I don't know how aware of Kochanski you were. This is sort of Lister's love interest he had before the rest of the crew got wiped out. They were a thing. It was complicated, and
Crichton gives the history of it at the beginning of the episode, because he talks about Kochanski. Then he's like, I love the line that it was your ambition. He talks about how they were together for 3 weeks, they split up, and then he said it's
your ambition, sir, somehow, someday, to win her back, and then lie on top of her and move up and down rapidly in that curious way that humans find so agreeable.
That was hell of a line.
Good double entendre.
Great line.
But yeah, I didn't realise as well. I think the captain we see before Kachansky comes into, the one who gets shot down, I believe, if I read the credits right, is played by Anita Dobson of EastEnders and Married to Brian May fame, I believe.
Indeed, yeah.
So that's a nice little cameo for any soap fans out there. Even though she's only on screen for about 10 seconds before being killed. I'm sure she loved that. So,
and interestingly, linking into that, the moment later when Lister was playing, needed to play the guitar well, a version of Lister needed to play the guitar well, they did ask Brian May to be the close-up of the hands playing it. But he declined because he said his hands wouldn't look anything like Lister's. So
yeah. At least he realised that, and it didn't. Yeah,
You'd think that the production team would know that as well, but maybe they were just so enamored with the possibility of having Brian May play the guitar on their show.
They didn't necessarily think the factors all through.
They did not at all. But we do get a little continuity nod to Lister's two sons, Jim and Bexley. Kachansky references them. They've popped up before. So again, all these little continuity things they like to acknowledge, and then so much of it they just throw out the way. This is Red Dwarf, Dom. And you just have to... I've learned you just have to roll with it. Roll with what they give you.
Sounds fair.
But they decide they've got to get out. They've got to get out of there, and they come against a fireball, a fiery asteroid that is heading towards them. But Crichton quickly deduces that this has to be an illusion, right? Because Cat can't smell anything. There's nothing on the radar, and this led to what is a potential funniest moment for me is when it passes through and Crichton goes smug mode. And then just goes on.
Yes.
I love that. I love that so much.
I loved when he said lie mode.
Yes, lie mode.
Yes, lie mode, yes. I also really like the bit in that where he's is he asked, would you stake your reputation on it or something? No, he says, I would stake my reputation on it.
Crichton, you haven't got a reputation. No, but I'm hoping to acquire one from this escapade.
Lots of great little lines in there. And the timing of it as well, of these guys, is always brilliant. But a second fireball comes, it's entirely real, and it grounds Starbug. And before I wrote it in my notes, because this has been another recurring thing,
I knew you were going to reference this.
Starbug is crashed, destroyed, everything all the time. And somehow they keep getting new ones. And I was about to write in my notes again, for the upteenth time, Starbug is grounded. But then they
got there before you.
They got there before me, and the line that clinched it was, Starbug's crashed more times than a ZX81. That was a beautiful joke, a beautiful dig on old computers. And for me, that made me very happy indeed. Because they're self-aware, goddammit. They know that they're doing this, but... yeah, because God forbid, which Starbug is this, Phil? What? Yeah,
I don't know. Who knows? There have been
this
so
isn't
many.
A first-time thing, Dom. This has happened several times.
It's crashed many times. There are at least, I think, 2 occasions where, in the plot line, they get back to the ship another way. So presumably they've left Starbug behind. But who knows? It's Red Dwarf is a big ship. Red Dwarf is miles long. They could have like 20 Starbugs for all we know.
Yeah, that's true. And they keep getting access.
That would also explain the difference in the set as well. If this is a completely different Starbug to the ones we've seen before.
Absolutely. Just want to ask Dom. Obviously, you would have noticed in this episode there's a lot of model shots used in this one. So, what did you think of all the model work?
Well, I thought they were quite good. They were very reminded me a bit of Jerry Anderson shows, to be honest.
Yeah.
We've said that before, yeah.
Yeah, especially, there wasn't really one in this one, but if you see any that have...
Well, there was the shot when the Starbug took a direct hit to the front and burst into flames at the front. That reminded me a lot of Thunderbird 2's damage in the Terror in New York City in Thunderbirds. Yeah. And I really thought that was a very... nicely handled shot, to be honest. I mean, I've seen quite a bit of the model shots of Red Dwarf itself, and that always gave me vibes of the big ship in Trial of a Time Lord.
Yes, yeah. That lovely like panning shot of it going across, yeah.
Yeah, but that for a whole series.
It is.
While we're on models, it would be a good time to mention the story that I read, that apparently the whole plot of this season of losing Red Dwarf came about because they dropped the model of Red Dwarf and it broke, and that gave the writers the idea. I don't know if they did it as a practical, like, oh, well, let's not bother rebuilding this, or if it was just a, hey, that's a good idea. We could do a whole season without that, or more seasons without that. And apparently how the idea was formed.
Oh.
And here is me thinking that it was a link to some Series 5 cliffhanger or something.
No.
No.
This show doesn't do linking continuity. So...
They ended Series 5 with no cliffhanger at all. It was just the end of a regular episode, and then suddenly this starts and they've lost the ship.
Yeah. I think, I know with the end of Series 5 basically ends like in the most, I guess, generic, straightforward way possible. Like they've got out of the jam and they go, right, let's go, as in, onward to new adventures, and then it ends. I did read that apparently this season was a bit rushed in terms of the BBC wanted another series the next year, and the writers were like, we want a bit more time, but the BBC were like, no, we want it next year. So I don't know, maybe that accounts for, like you say, partly accounts for the idea that Red Dwarf's not there. They were like, well, what the hell do we do? Something extreme. Let's scrap Red Dwarf.
Yeah, and actually thinking about the fact that there was no link between the end of last season and this one, I remember as a kid watching this being my first series, and they've lost Red Dwarf, and me knowing that this other ship existed, maybe from just like seeing clips of it or whatever, and then thinking, I need to watch the episode where they lose it one day. And for years, just seeing repeats of old episodes, because they would occasionally repeat stuff, and I'd occasionally catch an episode that was before this series, especially in the 3-year gap between the end of this one and the next one. And I kept on thinking, well, when am I going to see the episode where they lose Red Dwarf? And it just never came. So, and occasionally they'd have to, because we've had episodes where they've had to quickly leave Red Dwarf because of a radiation leak or something like that. And I thought, is this the time where where they lose it? And no, they get back there by the end of the episode. And I just remember for years thinking, I just haven't seen that episode yet. It's somewhere in the past and I have not seen it, but no, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it never happened.
The Mandela effect? That's it, the Mandela effect. Yeah,
because also there's bits in the credits of some earlier seasons, I think, where Starbug is leaving the docking bay, but in a rush and crashes into the side of the doors as it's exiting and stuff. So I was convinced that scene must be from when they had to leave Red Dwarf and lost it for years. And yeah, nope.
Nope, never happened.
Nope.
But what did happen was Starbug's grounded, and Lister goes out to fix the damage when he comes across a beautiful woman. Dom, what did you think of this whole scene and the reveal at the end of it?
That was... I could see where it was going a mile off. But the reveal was glorious, because he was in a full-on snog. Yep. There's the line that... What was it? You want to turn my butt into a giant peach, or something like that, something along those lines. It's just like, wow, how vivid are these people?
No subtlety whatsoever. Absolutely, yeah. Oh god, it was.
And then you see him all snogging the insectoid, and it's all around his mouth, and it's so grim. And then there's the straw.
Yep.
And then I loved that they did another fake out straight after with the Whiten. Being like, no, it's mine, essentially.
Yeah.
And then calling him Dave, which I thought was a very, very sly way to handle that usual, something's not quite right trope.
Yes, yeah. No, I thought that was... I must admit, even though I've now watched 5 series of this, I didn't immediately clock it when he said that. It was only when Lister went, Dave? And I was like, yeah, why did he call him Dave and not Sir or Mr. Lister? So... yeah, you're right. I think a very subtle, clever way of handling it, yeah. Phil, what did you think of the scene?
Yeah, it was really good. I love the way it cut from him kissing the beautiful woman and the way the camera was it was very good camera work, and the cut, it was kind of coming around and then it cut and suddenly he was kissing, like it kind of went around the back of him, so it obscured her. But as it came around the other side, they cut at just the right time to reveal that he was actually snogging a quite disgusting looking, no offense to any genetically engineered bug monsters out there, but looking slobbery creature.
Yeah. Yes, quite grim,
quite
grim.
sloppy.
So,
all that slime. This is another thing. I like to trawl the IMDb trivia section on the episodes. That slime was apparently the kind of jelly type lubricant that they use on it for inseminating cows.
Oh god.
Agricultural jelly, that's it. That's what it's called.
Why? Out of everything you could use, why?
It obviously had just the right look and was not going to cause any harm to anybody, so they went for that.
Good God.
My God almighty.
Talk about going the extra mile for your program, eh? Well, BBC, you wanted this series at the time. I hope you're happy with it.
Interestingly, another thing from the trivia was that this came about. The writer decided to put this scene in and make Craig Charles snog this horrible monster with this jelly and this ooziness, because he'd been pestering them that he hadn't had any romantic plot lines in a while, and that Rimmer was getting loads of romantic plot lines. I think he had 2 or 3 last season where he got accosted by women or things. So Craig Charles was a bit like, come on,
God.
give me something, give me a woman to, get. And
so they were basically like, you want one, eh?
Basically, yeah. They went like, okay, fine, we'll give you a woman. Yeah, that woman's going to be a disgusting bug monster dripping with slime.
One of the most dangerous things to do is complain about the material you're given to comedy writers. Yeah. That is a very dangerous move.
And needless to say, it didn't pay off.
It didn't pay off. But hey, if he was acting disgusted, it might have been real. But hey, he pulled it off. So props to Craig Charles. On Craig Charles, it's pretty evident the guys, they've got to get out of here. They can't stay here. But we have a lister inside Starbug and one who's still outside. So to solve the mystery of who is the siren and who is not, Rimmer decides that they both must play the guitar, which is a nice reference, obviously, to the start of the episode, where hibernated Lister can't really play. And like you say, we see what is the siren play really well, and then they're blasted to death. So
yeah, I really liked how this was kind of clever, because because the siren picks up on your own perceptions, and you reads the person they're imitating's mind, basically, or the person they're trying to appeal to. So because Dave thinks he can play well, the siren version of him could play well. So I thought that was quite clever.
It's very clever in the way it linked to the beginning as well, with Dave actually, acknowledging in his amnesiac state that he's quite terrible at the guitar.
Yeah.
And then he returns to his, I'm the best state. But no, he's really terrible. But because of that delusion, as you were saying, the siren didn't pick up on it, assumed he's Brian May, and then just decides to rock out.
Yeah.
They did a lot of good setting up stuff in that opening scene that paid off in the third act, I think, with the Kachansky reference and there were a few other things as well. So I think it was a really good episode, structurally as well.
It's a tall order to do in 25 minutes of your sci-fi comedy show to get all this in, and they do frequently do it well. But I mean, managing time, they do shoot down that siren, but it's not over yet. But wait, there's more. A meteor storm is approaching, so the scanners say. But Crichton heads down to the engine room, which we've never seen in Starbug at this point before, by the way. Talk about expanded set. Starbug must be huge, bigger on the inside, because it's massive. And we see a character that is known as Professor Mamet, who is apparently Crichton's creator, who, correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, we haven't seen Professor Mamet before?
No, we haven't. No. Played here by Jenny Agutter.
Ah, okay. Again, neat little casting. But again, a new bit of lore, Red Dwarf lore. We have Crichton's creator, who, again, Crichton very obviously susses out is a siren, but the siren manipulates Crichton and is programming to put himself in in the trash compactor. So what was everyone's thoughts on this scene then, and where the story was going, considering there was only about 5 minutes left?
I was looking at the clock and being like,
they do sometimes rush some endings on Red Dwarf.
Oh,
Although
God,
I
yeah.
don't think this one was particularly badly rushed. It kind of worked, I think, with what they crammed into those 5 minutes. It didn't feel like they went too fast. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but
seemed a bit of a logical conclusion that was pulled out of their arse.
Yeah. With the Crichton thing, I thought it was a good solution too, because I was wondering with Crichton what they would do, because he's not organic. You know, he's not going to be susceptible in the same way, but by appearing as his creator and sort of manipulating his programming, because he's programmed to obey his creator, I thought that was a clever way of getting around how the Siren would manipulate him in a different way to how it had done the others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I must be honest, I am glad the finale was based around another Siren rather than the supposed, meteor storm that they were alerted to, because I thought, that would be, it's a cool little finale, but we'd already had the whole asteroid meteor thing, so I was like, oh, we're doing that again for the finale. So I did like that subversion, how then the others come in and say, oh, it was just another Siren illusion, and that's the focus. But the Siren manages to Rimmer disappears because the battery's gone, so that's him out, and then there were two, as Lister says. And the Siren defeats them by bonking their heads together. Classic way of sorting some people out, isn't it?
Absolutely. And yeah, it looks like the Siren's going to win at this point. Then a big cube comes along.
I loved Crichton Cube. I was giggling so much. I was just like...
throws
the design,
himself off the edge.
walk, it just...
The Siren made that usual villainous error of taking too bloody long to bloody do what you need to do. And it just stood there twiddling around its straw, being like, good meal, lads. It's time to tuck in. And then it just gave enough time for Crichton to come and bean him on the head. How do you gender an insect, I guess?
Well, that's true. I mean, I must admit, the final sort of shot before they cut away from Crichton Cube falling, it looked a bit odd, because you see the impact, you see him hit the Siren, but this could just be my eyes, I don't have the best eyes, but it looked as if we didn't really see the Siren fall over, we just saw it shudder a bit, and then it cut away. I could be completely wrong, but to my eyes, do you know what I mean? We saw the hit, but there was it didn't fall over, it didn't didn't do any of that, it was just, oh, he's hit it, and now we've cut away, and assuming they've killed it. But
they killed it, assuming.
Yeah, assuming. Yeah,
right.
I don't know.
It didn't look like it didn't look very deaf. It just looked like a mild annoyance.
A mild irritant, yeah. But then, obviously, we're back in the cockpit, and for the first time, it seems, we are having a running thread for a series, as they are still tracking Red Dwarf, and they're off to find it. And the ending is not just, right, close book, we're done. It's, we've closed a chapter, but we're still going after the main thing. So I'm intrigued, because Red Dwarf hasn't done this so far, but what did we all think of the ending?
Yeah, I like the fact that it's set up this new status quo for the show, and they've got this mission. They're going to be trying to find Red Dwarf. How long it's going to take them to find it will be, I know. I've seen it, but...
Wow.
But you don't know.
I don't know.
We'll see.
What about you, Dom? Did you feel this was a fitting end to this episode?
Well, I mean, they couldn't exactly wrap it up in with the ending that it had. I mean, they could have easily ended it, just finding the ship, which would have been incredibly anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But the way that they're going about it, and actually giving the series a drive and a purpose and an arc of sorts, is very effective, I would say.
Ah, well, I'm glad it's effective, because that, folks, is Series 6, Episode 1, Sirens. The story continues. But before we wrap things up, what we do, Dom, on this show, we have 3 regular things we do, and we'll ask you to do as well. We go through our favourite character of the episode, our funniest moment from the episode, and a score out of 10. So, to start with, we'll go with our favourite characters. So, Dom, which character was your favourite in this episode? It could be for any reason. It could be that they were the funniest to you, or you just enjoyed their performance the most. So who did you take to?
I'm gonna say Amnesiac Lister.
Oh, okay, nice.
Because it was just seeing... like retroactively comparing what Lister is to what he became at the beginning of the episode, and just seeing he's realizing everything about himself is fundamentally wrong as a person. His entire life is just all the decisions he's making, like onions on cornflakes, vindaloo sauce for breakfast. He's realizing it's all wrong.
It's all wrong.
It's all completely wrong, and I assume that would be like the audience surrogate view of him. Like in the prior 5 series, seeing him do all this disgusting stuff and being like, dude, what? And yeah, I respect them for sending up the character that way, especially as the opening few minutes to a new series. It was very funny.
Oh, it's a great choice for favourite character. What about you, Phil? Who did you take to?
I'm going with Crichton.
Nice.
Mostly just because he had the most lines, which I found really funny throughout the episode. Most of the times when I laughed out loud was something Crichton had said or done.
Yeah.
And actually a lot of it is in that scene. It is kind of paired up with Dave being amnesiac.
Yes.
But I just found the stuff Crichton's reaction to it and his informing of him for what he's like, very funny. Probably more so, just slightly more so than Dave's reaction to it. And throughout the rest of the episode, I just think he had the best lines.
Ace, great choice. I mean, mine is exactly the same as yours, Phil. I'm going with Crichton as well. He made me laugh so much in this one. I mean, Robert Llewellyn does a great job as always, but so many lines were potentials for my funniest moment, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, some of the writing he had, the execution of the lines as well. I don't think I've laughed this much at a Red Dwarf in quite a while, so I've got to give it to him. But funniest moment then. So Dom, it can be a whole scene, it could be a line, it could be anything really. Just the moment to you that made you laugh the most or anything like that.
There was a lot of funny moments in this episode. I really enjoyed it. But I'll give it to the guy who was the first victim to the siren.
Oh yeah,
or last victim, whatever. How it depends how you see, because his performance was great. Who played him? Was it an actual comedy actor? Because you feel like his face is familiar.
Let's have a look on the IMDb. Was it Crazed Astro? Do you reckon? Richard Ridings.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Richard Ridings, okay. It might have been in something else around that period of time, but he gave a very firm performance. Like, oh, you're irresistible. No, I don't want you.
Apparently he voices Daddy Pig in Peppa Pig.
Well, there you go.
I thought that was Brian Blessed.
Oh, contention. I like it.
Oh,
Brian Blessed is Daddy Pig.
Might have to do some further research here, folks.
Brian Blessed, Peppa Pig. The answer is,
isn't he Grandad Pig?
Oh, he's Grampy.
Oh, he's Grampy Pig.
He's Grampy. Okay, that makes sense.
Every time I hear his name, I just think of what's his chant in the Doctor Who, Varone, or whatever it is. Like, I love him. Who doesn't love Brian Blessed? He's awesome. Craze Astro, your funniest moment. A great scene as well. Great choice. What about you, Phil? Funniest moment?
I had 2 down. A contender was Crichton's line about Kachansky and Dave's ambition with her.
Oh, very, very,
moving up
very
and down
polite,
rapidly while laying on top of her. But actually, I'm going to give it to the bit where the sort of visual moment where it cuts from Dave kissing the beautiful woman to it being a bug monster dripping with saliva. That was the funniest moment for me.
Excellent. Great choice. Well, I had a few contenders. Smug Mode was a contender. The Starbucks crash more times than the ZX81 was a very high contender. One we haven't mentioned that was a great line is Crichton when he says that he has a head shaped like an amusing ice cube, because it's so true. I couldn't stop laughing.
Self-aware.
This show's good at that. But the moment that clinched it for me, it's Crichton Cube. The Crichton Cube, man.
How does he even make that? He doesn't have enough girth.
I can't top that. That just, I couldn't stop laughing for all that. So, yeah, Crichton Cube. Need I say more? And finally, we rate each episode out of 10 scutters, which are the little droids that help service Red Dwarf. So, Dom, how many scutters out of 10 would you give Psirens?
Solid. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I'll give it a solid. I'll give it an 8.
An 8. Nice. Was there anything that you feel made it lose points, or?
I mean, it's difficult to tell because I guess it's only on the basis of I've seen funnier.
Sure.
Yeah, it's only really on that basis, really, when you try to compare it with ones that you've seen or have memories of.
Yeah.
And it's not the funniest one I've seen, so on that basis, it's still pretty good. So yeah, I think 8, which is basically 4 out of 5.
Ace? No, I'm happy with that. It's a good reasoning. Phil, yourself?
I'm going to give it slightly higher and give it an 8.5.
Nice.
Solid.
I think it was a strong start to the series. A series which, in my memory, again, I haven't watched it for many years, but is one of the stronger ones. So I'm leaving a bit of wiggle room there for later episodes as well. But I like the way it sets up a new status quo. There's some really funny moments. Yeah, it was a good episode.
Nice. Well, once again, Phil, funnily enough, it seems I'm following you. I'm also giving it an 8.5. Strong season opener. Really like the concept of the Psirens. Some great jokes in there, as we said. It only loses a bit of points for me. There were some of the gags that, just for me personally, and again, Dom, this is a recurring thing I have. Some of them I think were a bit too dragged out. You know, when they send the scouter and they see like the blood and written in whatever. Like, I found, again, all subjective, of course. I found it funny when they initially said, "Oh, it's like his intestine or whatever." But yeah, that just went on a bit too long for me. And there were just some other one-liners that didn't land. But on the whole, this is a very strong season opener for Red Dwarf. And I think, from all I've heard about Series 6, again, this is one the fans seem to say is like a pinnacle. So I'm looking forward to see what's to come. But yeah, 8.5. So seems like we all liked it. That's a good thing to start off your new season with. So that, folks, was Series 6, Episode 1, Psirens. We hope you enjoyed our review and chat about it. And Dom, thank you for joining us as a special guest. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. And before you shoot, any work you do or social media, feel free to shout it out. Where can we find you?
Well, naturally, you can find me on Twitter at DominicJGM. You can also find me on Instagram at Dominus of Time. And in terms of projects that I'm working on, etc., that sort of thing, I've recently completed my series of audio dramas, Doctor Who based, called Doctor Who Remnants. So that is all on YouTube and also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, but you can find them all through Anchor. And as well as that, I'm still working on the DW 2012 series of my own incarnation of Doctor Who. That will be the Purple Doctor, and that'll be coming out hopefully later this year or very early next year, whichever works.
And I hear that that Remnant series is very good. I mean, coming from a completely non-biased perspective,
it's got a particularly good guest star in that last episode.
Yeah, I think I've heard
a
of
very
that
good
guy.
performance.
Yeah. Just to own up there, I am in the last episode. I think Adam was in an episode as well, weren't you?
I am. I'm in
episode 3.
I am episode 3.
Yeah, we're not biased. We're tall there, obviously.
No, but if you want to hear us act, there we go. Yeah. We're giving it a stab. But
and you both did very, very well. I'm very happy
Tom.
with how they all turned out. And honestly, I was just watching back, the last one, Philip, your performance was extraordinary.
Oh, thank you.
I have to say, honestly. And Adam, you, the way you carried the Angel episode was just,
bless you,
perfect.
Man. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And, well, yeah, folks, there you go. Go and check out everything Dom's just mentioned there. Go and follow him. Check out those projects. They are some top quality work. You won't want to miss it. And before we shoot, Phil, where can people find you on the internet?
Usual place. Just my YouTube channel is probably the best. Philip Hawkins. It's just my name. I talk about all sorts of geeky pop culture, Doctor Who mostly, but also this podcast goes up there as well as on podcast channels. And things like the MCU and Star Trek I also talk about. So if you like any of those things, check me out on there. What about you, Adam?
What about me? Well, you can also find me on YouTube, Adam Martyn with a Y, and I should pop up. I also make videos on Doctor Who as well as a whole range of other weird and wacky and niche topics. You can also follow me on Twitter, Adam Martyn AMTV, for daily ramblings and giveaways, doing a lot of giveaways at the minute, all for free, so come and join the fun there. And also, if you want to keep up to date with this podcast, it does have a Twitter account of its own, All Dead Dave Pod. Give us a follow for updates on episodes coming, the occasional meme and GIF we do. You know, who doesn't love a good meme or a GIF? So,
of course.
Exactly. So give us a follow over there. And yeah, we have new episodes coming week after week. So I think that all is left to be said, chaps, is Dom, once again, mate, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
A pleasure.
And
very good, thank you.
For everyone listening, goodbye from me and Phil, and we'll see you next time for Series 6, Episode 2.
See you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.